But there's another program as well, maybe a couple of years ago, where you were talking to a historian on the BBC about, and I think that was about, or what one of the topics that you covered was, why are the 60 seconds in a minute? Why are the 60 minutes in an hour? And that sort of, question that people often ask, how do we define a second? And then why is this odd thing where there are 60, lots of them, and then 60 more? And
I mean, this is brilliant, isn't it? We've got this system now with 60 minutes in the hour, 12 hours in the half day, or 24 hours in the day, 60 seconds in the minute. And we think perhaps that there must be some really important technical reason why that is the way the world is.
Yeah.
And there isn't. And it could be literally anything. And one of the reasons I get really excited about the long history of timekeeping is that the reason we've got 60 minutes and 60 seconds and 24 hours goes back 3,500 years, goes back to the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Babylonians, who, for reasons which were important to them then, the numbers 12 and 60 were really important. In the case of why is it 12 hours and 24 hours, it's the Egyptians who, their astronomy, they'd have like 6 or 12 stars that would pass overhead at night, at roughly even intervals, which helped them divide their night up and then their day, so that they could make sense of their lives. And the 60, the Babylonians knew that 60 is a really good number arithmetically. It's a really good number for dividing the numbers up. So base 60 calculations they were really comfortable with. So when they started to develop the first water clocks and sundials, it made sense that they'd use the arithmetical system they knew. Now, when we talk about, well, why hasn't someone come along with a challenger system?
Why is there a decimal time system?
Clock? And the answer is, well, there's two answers to that. I mean, I really could go on for literally a decimal month about this. I mean, the point is that there was a decimal time system brought in the French Revolution in the 18th century.
Of course.
Part of their big project to decimalize and to metricate all measurement had to include bringing this last, most unruly of measurement systems, time, into some kind of modern rational order, rather than this irrational idea of ancient Egyptians looking up at the stars. So they introduced, a decimal calendar, so decimal months, 10 months in the year, which was all right. It meant that months were about 5 weeks long. And weeks were 10 days long, which didn't go down very well if you were waiting for the weekend. But they also brought in decimal time. So they divided each, what we call 24-hour period, into 10 hours. And each hour had 100 minutes, and each minute had 100 seconds. And makes sense in principle. In practice, there were something like 15 million watches in use in France at the time, in the late 18th century, 15 million watches out there. So either you have to build 15 million new watches, which tell decimal time, which is, it's not technically that difficult for a normal, simple watch. But if you've got a watch with a calendar or a repeating watch, a watch that strikes or sounds, really, really complex. So what are you going to do? Build 15 million new watches and sell them to people who don't want them, because the French people didn't want decimal time. Or you try and convert 15 million watches to show decimal time, which is a massive technical job. And you'll not sell any of these watches outside the French market, because it's only France that's got decimal time. So it was abandoned after about 18 months, 18 decimal months probably. But as you will know only too well, we've got decimal time now. It's sexagesimal from the second all the way up, 60 minutes, 60 seconds, 12, 24 hours. But anything smaller than a second, which is what matters to everybody who uses timing today, whether they're in industry, in science, sports people, whatever, it's tenths of a second, hundredths, thousandths, it's micro, milli, nanoseconds. That's all decimal. And so rather than having this revolutionary diktat, which said from a point of principle, we should move to decimal time, which failed in the 18th century, we ended up with a perfect system that works for everyone and gives the specialists, the time specialists, all the precision they need, and all the computational ease that decimal brings. And we never had to have that revolution. We just needed a need for it, and it just emerged.
Yeah.